Hi again. You're watching Dreaming Stories, and my name is Anna. Today, we are having my November reading wrap-up video. So, in the month of November, I read in total 8 books. So, I actually had quite a nice month. I would say it was a month of short stories because 3 books out of this 8 books that I read in November were actually short stories collections. And I genuinely, to be honest, I feel like I enjoyed almost all of the books that I read this month. So yeah, I'm very happy about my reading this month. So let's maybe start. So one note, I was doing it in the same way in my previous wrap-up video. It was October reading wrap-up, and I think I will continue in the same way. So I will be listing my books, not in chronological order, but in order of reading enjoyment for me. So we will start with the book that I like the least, and we will finish with my favorite book of the month. So, wish me luck. Let's start. So the first book that I read in the month of October, it was Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. So it's a very famous and well-known series. It's a sort of series of detective stories staged in, let's say, magical London. I've heard that it's very similar to Dresden Files and Alex Very series. I personally read 2 books from Alex Very series. I didn't continue the series. I'm not sure I will, to be honest. I'm not sure it works for me completely. Let's say I've never tried Dresden Files. I'm still quite excited about it. I think I will give it a go, but these books give me a pause, to be honest. I am a little bit maybe less excited about Dresden Files than I used to be because I've already gave a try to Alex Very series, and now this is the first book in the series. It just didn't work for me. Yeah. So in this book, we are following Peter Grant. He is a member of London Police, so he's a probationary constable. And at some point, he discovers that he has some sort of sight, so he can see what other people can't. So on his first, let's say his new professional magical encounter in his life, he interviews a ghost at the murder scene. He didn't really realize that it was a ghost until the ghost told him that he was dead. So literally, we started with the book with the murder scene, and our main character, Peter, interviews a ghost. And after that, it's very, very fast-paced book. I think you will really enjoy it if you like the sort of very fast-paced action books, but maybe without many details. I think you might really like it. I heard that people actually that like Dresden Files may really enjoy it. So please take my opinion with a grain of salt. I didn't like this book. I don't think I will be continuing with this series. But if you like Dresden Files, please give it a go. You may love it. So as I was saying, we are following Peter Grant, who is a member of London Metropolitan Police, and he discovers that he has this magical side. So he is recruited in the special sort of force team, which is part of London Metropolitan Police, that deals with magical beings, magical encounters. So it's a very small sort of force. He has one manager, master, let's say, and this master is very mysterious. Intentionally, we don't really know much about him. And so Peter sort of embarks on his new career. What I I mean, it sounded really exciting for me. That's why I was really into trying this series. But what unfortunately didn't work for me. First of all, I felt all of the characters were very thinly drawn. Uh, they're they're like very surface level. We don't really have much information. I didn't really get attached to any of the characters. And any motivation inside a book I found very dubious. Let's say Peter discovers that he has this magical sight and he discovers all this alternative world, alternative London around him. He doesn't have many questions about it. It's like he's just taking it for granted, as if. I found it very perplexing, to be honest, because I'm thinking about myself. If I found myself in this sort of situation, wow, I would be so surprised. I would have so many questions. It's just literally your world is turning upside down. Everything you believed in probably is not true. So you're literally discovering a new universe, and he's just stumbling into it. And he's just unfazed. Yes, he's not really asking many questions. He just accept this new position without much thinking, let's say, and again questioning. I found it very unbelievable, all this situation. Another thing I really didn't like, we are following Peter Grant, which is uh yeah, quite young male protagonist. Honestly, he felt younger to me. The way he's constantly thinking about women and imagining sexual encounters with them and all this commentary inside, you literally feel you're following a teenage boy. I don't know, I just found it, it's not really disturbing, it's not, but it's not really pleasant. I didn't enjoy following this character. I found him uh, uninteresting, flat, and a bit annoying. So yeah, unfortunately, I will not really continue the series. I heard somewhat similar complaints about Dresden Files, at least in the area of female interaction, let's say. So I'm not sure that this is similar with this series. I don't know. I think I'll still give a go with Dresden Files. But yes, as I said already, if you like Dresden Files, give it a go. You may love it. It just, yeah, didn't work for me, unfortunately. So I think it will go into my donation pile. I will not be continuing this series. Well, shame. So the second book I read this month, it's a new novel by Adrian Tchaikovsky, Service Model. So again, I was extremely excited about it because it's actually my first novel by this author. I know he's extremely prolific. He has so many sci-fi and fantasy works. I've never read him before. So this was my first novel by him. So, like, yes, obviously, I was very excited to try him. I will not judge him by this book. I'm not saying this is a bad book. I enjoy it. I really enjoyed it for what it was, but I was just expecting more, let's say. Yeah, it just felt flat in certain things for me, but in general, I think the premise, the idea, they were very fascinating. So in this book, in Service Model, we are following our main protagonist, service robot Charles, or late in the book, Aunt Charles. So he is a robot valley in this big, rich mansion full of other service robots, and they are serving one human inhabitant master. And in the beginning of the book, Charles discovers that he accidentally, and contrary to all his programming and knowledge, he killed his master during his morning shaving routine. Understandably, Charles is perplexed because he's trying to go through his video recordings, his programming, and tries to understand what actually happened. And it just doesn't make sense to him. He doesn't understand what happened, but the fact is obvious. He slit the throat of his master. So that's the beginning of our story. After that, there is a series of very, let's say, convoluted events, starting with a murder investigation led by police robots that are coming to the murder scene and trying to actually investigate in the best traditions of Sherlock Holmes, let's say. And what they discovered, that it's true that Charles killed his master, but he lacks motivation. He didn't want to kill his master. He doesn't understand how it happened. He doesn't have a motive. So after this event, Charles is being released from his services, and he embarks on this personal journey of trying to find a new employment, because he's a robot valet and he was made to serve humans. So Charles is trying to find a new employment. But in the course of the story, in the course of this book, it's becoming so much more. So this original goal of Charles to find new employment becomes a bigger search for consciousness, for bigger meaning, and he's trying to actually discover what happened with the world, why the world seems broken, where are humans, and what can be done about it. He meets new friends, new enemies, he embarks on very interesting adventures, and we follow Charles in his discoveries. So, as I said, the premise is very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I think it's just felt slightly flat for me personally in terms of bigger commentary, because we do discover some interesting things in the end of the book. But I just wished that it was discussed on a more deeper level. I feel that the idea and potential of this book is so much deeper than it was. But otherwise, I think it's very interesting, enjoyable, sort of light read. And yes, I would recommend it. I just personally wished that it was a little bit deeper. So, the third book of the month of November for me, it was my one of the short story collections that I read this month. So this is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. I have this absolutely magnificent paperback. It's actually part of Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition series that I'm trying to collect. If you watch my first video, you know that I'm on this quest, and I hope I will not lose this quest. So there are, I think at the moment, 124 books in this collection, and I have 9 of them. So yes, I have a long way to go. But I absolutely love the design of these books. I think it's absolutely magnificent. They're very, very good quality books. And this is the 75th anniversary edition. There are 10 short stories in this collection, and these are, let's say, dark fairy tale retellings. If you like fairy tale retellings, I would really recommend it because the writing is very beautiful. It's very atmospheric. I really enjoyed it. What somewhat didn't work for me, that I felt personally that by the end of the book, stories were getting shorter, and I felt like they had less meat on them. Let's say I didn't feel I had much to hold on there. I really enjoyed stories in the beginning of the book, but after that, I felt like I started losing the feel of it, the grasp on it, and yes, I feel I wasn't really enjoying it that much by the end of the book. Mm, yeah, I don't think, I think it's a very unpopular opinion because people love this book and absolutely love the beginning of it. I would say like till the halfway point in this book, I really enjoyed it, which is funny enough because it's a very short book. But yeah, some of the stories I just really didn't enjoy them, didn't like them, maybe didn't fully understand them, and maybe just partly due to my English. But yeah, I wished, I wish that stories were more elaborate, let's say, and larger, so I could actually live more in them and not some of the stories that were very, very short and didn't really have much plot or nothing really happening there. So yes, that's my very subjective and humble opinion on this short story collection. But again, if you like fairy tale retellings, dark fairy tale retellings, this is a classic fairy tale retellings. I would highly recommend it if you like this sort of things. I usually do. Just some of the stories in this book, unfortunately, didn't fully work for me. Okay, next book on our list. That's another um, short story collection, Never Whistle at Night. So this is a collection of short horror stories by uh, indigenous authors, various indigenous authors. So there is not one author. It's with introduction by Stephen Graham Jones. I tried to read one of his books, didn't work for me. As far as I remember, was it My Heart is a Chainsaw? Um, I think that was the name of the book, and it's sort of in style of this horror slasher movies. I'm not a big fan of this sort of genre, so I didn't really finish the book. I had to DNF it. Didn't really work for me. But I really enjoy this collection. So as I said already, this is a collection of short horror stories by indigenous authors. I don't really think we have many of them. If you're interested in this sort of things, I would highly recommend it. I really enjoyed, I would say, probably between 80 and 90% of the stories in this books. I really, really like this book. So I can't probably say much about the stories because it's like there are so many of them, and you just need to check it out by yourself. But yes, really loved it. New voices, maybe people that you've never, authors that you've never really read before. I actually ordered a book by one of the authors in this book after reading her story. Actually, it should arrive today. I'm very excited about it. So when I'll read it, I'll let you know what I think about it. But yes, I think it's a great way of discovering new authors and new voices because personally in my reading, I'm trying to read books by different authors from different cultures with different backgrounds. that I can sort of educate myself, because in our daily life we probably just sort of like locked in our own bubble, and we don't really have much of a chance to get um, knowledge of different cultures and get this exposure. So I think it's a wonderful way of introducing yourself to different cultures and mythologies. Yes, please give it a go. It's a very wonderful short story collection. Or spooky. You don't really need to read it in one go as I did. You can read a few stories here and there and just read it in parallel with other books. It's not a very big commitment, and I'm sure you will really like and you find some gems in here. So, next book on the list, Lightning by Dean Koontz. This is my first book by Dean Koontz. I found it shocking, considering how famous he is and how many books he published. But genuinely, yes, it was my first book by this author. Many people compare him to Stephen King. I partly understand why, and I'll tell you why. But at the same time, I found them very different. I know it's absolutely idiotic to try to compare and form my opinion about an author and his writing based on one book, but I just can give you my thoughts and feel based on this particular book. So in this book, we follow our protagonist, our main character, Laura, pretty much from her childhood and till her adulthood through a series of tragic and perplexing events. So Laura, since she was a child, she had somewhat tragic life, or series of tragic events that hit her during her life, starting with events of her birth. But during these tragic events, there was this mysterious figure, this sort of angel that always came to her help. I found this premise very interesting. What I found very interesting about this book, and it's sort of interesting but at the same time so confusing. Reading this book, I felt that it was a mash of two books. Because in one book, we follow our main character throughout her life and through these tragic events, and it's sort of personal story, coming of age story of personal growth, how she goes through her life, through these absolutely horrible events, how she grows as a person, how she develops, how she finds friendship and beauty and light and all this, even despite all these dark things that are happening to her. This part of the story I found absolutely beautiful. I would say it's first half of the book. And based on this half of this book, I understand why some people compare Dean Koontz to Stephen King, because the characterization was absolutely brilliant. It was beautiful. You get attached to our main character. I felt so emotionally deeply attached. I felt the pain that she felt, and I really wished the best for her in her life. Really feel it. And after that, at some point, book turns into this very fast-paced, swashbuckling adventure, let's say, very quickly. And the premise of this adventure, let's say, somewhat ridiculous. and at the same time fun. So I would say if you like slow, character-driven stories, you probably will love the first part of the book. I would say the first half of the book is probably close to 5 stars for me. I loved it. When it turned to this sort of ridiculous action movie, let's say, I had to put this book on a pause. So actually, it was sitting on my desk for about a month, and I was giving just a pause with this book because I just needed to reconcile myself with what was happening actually. But after that, after this pause, I just realized that probably I just need to enjoy the rest of the book for what it was. It was just very fast paced, somewhat ridiculous, action driven adventure. Um, Characterization became much more shallow, in my opinion, and it was just non-stop action, action, action. But at the same time, the last 50 pages of this book, I found it very challenging to put it down. I was literally like, it was so late at night already, and I knew that I need to wake up early. I just couldn't put it down. I just really wanted to see the end of it. So be prepared. If you read this book, first part of the book will be coming of age, slow, very character driven story. The second half of the book will be wild, um, sort of action driven adventure. So please be mindful of it. If you are fine with it, I think you will love this book. I would say, if we're talking about stars, probably the first half of the book was 5 stars for me. The rest was probably uh, around maybe 3 stars. And overall, I would say I would give it 4 stars just um, for the all the excitement I got out of it by the end of it, and plus I was still very attached to the main character. So please give it a go if you've never tried the Dean Koontz. You might actually really like it. I think it was a great fun. Yes, I think that's the right way to put it. So the next book on our list is Weird Fiction Anthology. So this is a collection of short stories again. So this is my third short story collection during this month. These are classic, weird horror short stories by classic authors. I actually personally never read anything by these authors before, so I was very, very intrigued and excited to give it a go. So there are 9 short stories in this collection, and let me just have a look, just not to be mistaken. So we have here Edgar Allan Poe, Vernon Lee, Lovecraft, and other authors. So I personally absolutely loved 2 stories out of this collection. It's The Call of Cthulhu and The Monkey Paw. Actually, The Monkey Paw was briefly mentioned in, I don't remember, I really don't want to lie to you, but it was briefly mentioned in one of the first books in Alex Verus series as well. I just mentioned that I tried reading that series in the beginning of this video, and there was mention of this legend of Monkey Paw, and I was actually wondering where it's coming from. So please let me know, because I see that the Monkey Paw in this collection was written by W.W. Jacobs. Please let me know that this is actually the origin of the story, or it's coming from somewhere else, because I'm really intrigued by the story. So, and if, for instance, there is some other origin for this, I don't know, legend or story, I would like to actually give it a go. Please do let me know in the comments if you know anything about it, because I really enjoyed this one. I think I personally didn't like only one short story from this collection. I absolutely love the rest of the stories, but please be mindful that these are classic short horror stories. They are product of their time with certain issues that we had in the past. So please be mindful about it. Yeah, but if you can somewhat ignore it, I think you will really like it. Obviously, because it's a classic collection, so the writing might be a little bit more dense than in contemporary books. It was from time to time a little bit more challenging for me, since I'm not a native speaker, so English is not my first language. But I still really liked it, and I would highly recommend it as a probably an introduction to classic horror stories. If you've never tried anything like that and you would like to maybe give it a go and explore this authors, I think it's a wonderful introduction, because it's relatively short. It doesn't really require much effort or time investment on your part, and you can just get a feel of it and understand if you're actually interested in it. I loved it. Yes, please give it a go. Okay, next book, second to last, which means it's my second favorite book of this month, which was such a difficult decision. So, as you know already, I mentioned I read 8 books this month, and I already mentioned 6 of them. So we have 2 last books to discuss during this video. And it was such a difficult decision for me to make, actually, what was my favorite book of the month between these 2 books. Both of them are debut books by debut authors. But I think both of them did such a wonderful job. Yes, I think I'm not really sure still that I can really say which one of them is, let's say, my favorite of this month, which one is better, because they're so different, because one is a fantasy novel and another is a non-fiction memoir book. So I don't know. I would say you love fantasy, you will probably like, or at least give a try maybe to the book that I'll be talking about now. And if you're more into non-fiction and finance books, give a go to my final book on this list. So, okay, let's get to it. My second favorite book of this month is The Dollmakers by Lynn Buchanan. I already have a separate review video about this book. I was really impressed with it, so I decided to make a separate review video. I will try to link it to this video, so if you're interested in more detailed information about this book, please watch that video. Unfortunately, book reviews videos are not very popular, and especially in my channel, because I'm a beginner, so I don't really have many views. That would be great if you actually watch and appreciate, and give me feedback what you think about it. So yes, in Dollmakers, we are pretty much following our only, let's say, protagonist, our main protagonist, Shin. So it's not one of these books when you have lots of point of views, lots of characters. We pretty much follow one character. We do get exposure to 2 other characters, but very briefly. Their POVs are very short. So I would say that the main focus of the book is on Shin. So Shin lives and she grew up in a country called One. She is an inspiring dollmaker. In this country, citizens are plagued by attacks from these demon-like creatures called Shod. So attacks are frequent, even though recently they're getting less and less frequent, and people don't really understand why, and maybe some of them are losing cautious. She and family was killed. Her entire family was killed during one of the Shod attacks, and actually was the last biggest attack in the country. So Shin is very motivated to become a god doll maker so she can protect people from Shod. So the only thing that can fight Shod in this universe are dolls. So the magic of this world is art-based, craft-based. Doll makers make dolls of different sizes, different purposes, and they put a birthmark on them, so giving them life and purpose to these dolls. Dolls are generally categorized into two main types, guard dolls and artisan dolls. So the artisan dolls are mainly for entertainment. They are considered as pieces of art, and guard dolls, probably logically, guarding people, and they're fighting Shod. So the main purpose for Shin, as she sees it, to become a guard doll maker. Unfortunately, during her dollmaker exam, her final exam before she received the dollmaker license, it's clear that people don't see her as a guard dollmaker because her dolls appear too fragile, too beautiful, and they're very intelligent dolls, but people just don't see them as potentially guardian dolls. So Shin is very upset, and I would say she's infuriated. Please be aware, in this book, we are following a very unlikable protagonist. Shin is very complicated. Even though her motivations and her goals are noble and her heart is in the right place, her actions are abrasive. You probably will hate her in the beginning of the book. Yes, I found it very difficult sometimes to follow her because you really don't like this person. But there is lots of potential for growth for Shin. And in the story, you will see what's actually happening. So I think it's a wonderful debut. It's one of these rare books that's actually standalone, even though there are some plans by the author to create other books in the universe. I read some interviews, and it looks like the author has this plan of making sort of series of books in the same universe, like in style of Terry Pratchett. So we'll be probably reading from different characters from different countries, because there is some mention of why the world around this country, but we don't really have much information about it because we are so focused on our main character and their story. But there is definitely potential for the wider picture and more stories in this universe. It is very character driven. You get very emotionally attached to characters. I think Lee Buchanan made an absolutely wonderful job in characterization, because it doesn't matter what you feel about the characters in this book. You will encounter many characters throughout the story. You will feel frustration, you will feel curiosity. Love probably is a strong word, but you'll get emotionally attached to some of the characters, and you'll understand some of them more than the rest. But I would say I never felt flat towards any of the characters in the story. So if you want this type of standalone stories when you really embrace the world, get really attached to the characters, but without this bigger commitment, I think this would be a wonderful choice. Uh, it is quite dark sometimes, so be prepared for it, but it's definitely not a horror book. But it's not one of these super cozy stories with low stakes. The stakes are high. Sometimes it's very brutal, and by the end of it, it's getting very um, uh, dark and brutal. Let's say another thing. If you have arachnophobia, well, there are some spiders in it. I have a problem with spiders, but personally, I didn't find it very disturbing. So yes, I would highly, highly recommend this book. Please give it a go, help the author, and if you like it, you have a chance of discovering this new universe for yourself, and you can just read this book. So when the new books will be introduced, so we can just continue the journey. Because I'm very, very excited to actually check other books by the author. Okay, the last book, and somewhat, I guess, my favorite book of the month, even though I said already, I found it very hard to choose between the previous one and this one. The Trading Game by Gary Stevenson. This is a debut book by the author, and it's a memoir. It's actually about his experiences working in financial industry, starting from London. You may know Gary Stevenson. You probably stumbled on his YouTube channel because he's very vocal on his YouTube channel, and he's discussing inequality on his platform. So this is the book pretty much conveying the beginning of his career, how he became a trader in Citi, in American bank, and how he formed his views on inequality, how he came to this understanding, and how he decided to start his new sort of journey and platform, uh, sort of widening awareness of people about inequality. So I found this book very fascinating. Actually, I read it twice already. So I would highly recommend it. I found the foreign voice very witty. I really enjoyed the sense of humor, even though there is, I think, some somewhat excessive amount of swearing. You you will see so many F words there. So if you're uncomfortable about it, well, I was somewhat sometimes uncomfortable because I felt sometimes it was just too much. But if you don't mind, I think you will really like it because Gary talks about his experience as a trader. He talks a lot about the culture in the industry and how it corrupts people. And what I especially liked about the book, he doesn't necessarily try to portray himself as a better person. Because even though he's an observer, because we read the book from his point of view, but at the same time, he's part of it. And throughout the book, you can clearly see how it affects him, how it shapes him. And I think, at least how I felt it, Gary was trying to be honest in this book. And he really didn't try to make himself look as a better person in terms of his conduct sometimes. Because sometimes when I was reading it, I am not sure I would probably like him as a person. I don't know. But yeah, it can be very complicated. But all of us are very complicated people. And I really like that he retained this honesty about the culture and about himself. So yes, if you like memoirs, if you like financial books about trading and in general the sort of books when people are talking about how their worldview was shaped, I think you will really enjoy this book. Please give it a go. I'm actually thinking of filming a separate video with the full review on this book. So yes, it will be online soon as well. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching my November wrap-up video. Please like and subscribe if you liked it. It will really help me. Please leave your comments. Let's discuss these books, or if you have some other book recommendations based on these books. See you next time. Bye.